Where has the football season gone, ladies and gentlemen? The Crimson Tide, its final home game of the campaign Saturday. Bryant-Denny Stadium, 2:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff, taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. We're right here, Touchdown Alabama Magazine, doing what we do, providing you all the up-to-date, the latest updates heading into Alabama's matchup with Arkansas. I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith.
And I'm Patrick Dowd.
And Pat, final home game of the season for Alabama. I remember just like yesterday, we were packing up, getting ready to go to Atlanta for Alabama's season opener with Miami. Now Saturday, final home game inside Bryant-Denny. Crimson Tide taking on Arkansas. It will be one that Coach Saban and the senior class will really look at, cherish being out there playing on the field. But first and foremost, some updates to get to, starting with the running backs. That running back room really thin now.
Yeah.
Started off with 5 scholarship guys. Now you're down to 2 as injuries to Jace McClellan, Kamar Wheaton, now Roydell Williams. Coach Saban mentioned Roydell's knee injury in Hey Coach on yesterday, out for the duration of the season.
Yeah, and it's another big loss. It's another costly one at a costly time this season. It's the wrong time of year to be piling up these kinds of injuries, and now Alabama is razor thin at the running back position. Only Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders are the ones that are healthy. So they've had to kind of go through the roster a little bit, find some guys who can maybe patch up and try to patch up that spot. Looking at guys like Christian Leary, DeMore Kennedy, and now even Slade Bolden getting into the mix as a possible emergency running back. But this is the time for Brian Robinson to really step up. He's a guy that doesn't have a ton of miles on him across his career, and he could be looking at some major workloads through the end of the season.
Now, he wants that responsibility. He wants that mindset. He wants that challenge, just due to Robinson talking about this throughout the week of practice and player interviews. But the Crimson Tide definitely becoming the Marines, looking for a few good men, a few good running backs in that room there. But flipping this from the running back position to the offensive line, some good news. Alabama does get Darian Dalcourt back this week after missing last week with an ankle injury. It also gets Javion Cohan back after missing last week with a wrist issue. So it's going to be interesting to see what the combination of offensive linemen will be taking on the Razorbacks, but good to have Dalcourt and Cohan back in practice.
Yeah, it's good to have them back into the lineup, and this is a group that's got to figure it out here in the next 2 weeks before if they can win out here, then they got a beast of a challenge against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Even before that, be a big challenge against Auburn. And they played better against New Mexico State last week with the fill-ins, but this is a group that has ups and downs throughout the entire season, and they have to find a combination that works here.
Got to find that consistency, Pat, and all throughout this week of practice, we've seen Will Anderson, we've seen Jalen Armour-Davis talk about we're rounded into form, we're getting that championship mindset, we're trying to do what champions do. And all that sounds good, but it all starts with the offensive line. We know what Evan Neal does at left tackle. He's had a sensational year. But the 4 guys with him, we have not seen that cohesiveness. We have not seen that continuity, that chemistry where this group is concerned. That played a bit better, like you mentioned, against New Mexico State. But here is a matchup against Arkansas where Sam Pittman, defensive coordinator Barry Odom, they've got a group that's gritty, that can thump, that can hit, that's physical, that's scrappy, led by guys like Hayden Henry and Bumper Poole at linebacker, Trey Williams on the defensive line, Big John Ridgeway on the defensive line. This group gets after you, and they take out after the mentality of those 2 coaches, Pittman and Odom. Alabama's offensive line's got to be locked in ready.
Yeah, they got to show up. And, Arkansas is another team that has an 8-man drop, so they really have to zone in on blocking the 3 guys up front. And Ridgeway's a guy that Saban brought up in his press conference.
He sets everybody up.
6'6", 320. He's
big
a
man.
Mammoth. You gotta get a hat, just the cliche here. Gotta get a hat on a hat, block downfield. Gotta get guys like Bumper Poole and Grant Morgan who are coming off really good games against LSU from a week ago. But another thing to look out for in this secondary is Monteric Brown, who's a guy who has 4 of their 10 interceptions so far this season. So it's gonna be throwing against 8-man drops is going to be more and more difficult. So it's really important for this offensive line to be able to run the football like it did against Ole Miss, who ran a similar style of defense.
Absolutely. And then on top of this, not just for Brian Robinson, this could be the game for Trey Sanders. Alabama fans have been waiting. Can we finally see Trey? Can we finally see the guy that came in 2019, 5-star from Florida, 5-star for IMG. We've been waiting on him. We know how talented he is, how gifted he is. Players have talked about him all week. He's gone through some adversity. He's gone through some injuries. But here is a moment where Trey can finally show the people, this is what I am.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate circumstances, but I'm sure he's really glad to be able to possibly get this big opportunity ahead in front of him because, he's a guy who's just really put his head down and worked and grinded. Haven't heard any bad peeps about him. Nick Saban's only had good things to say about his work ethic, so it's good to see him rewarded and possibly a bigger role down the stretch.
Now, we look at here, this Alabama defense here, Pat, a challenge for this group. Now, this group's played better in the last few weeks here. After the loss, after giving up 41 points in the loss to Texas A&M, this defense has played better. It's looked better. Now, of course, still got to improve those busted coverages on the back end, and you still want some more things done by your inside linebackers, Christian Harris, Henry To'o. But for the most part, we've seen some improvement, especially on the defensive line. More guys getting pressure, more guys affecting the quarterback. But this game, you've got an athletic guy in KJ Jefferson. Kendall Browse is going to want to have some design runs, some RPOs. This guy can run the ball. He can create. Jefferson, big arm. This is a game for the Alabama defense to still stack those performances together.
Yeah, they're going to have to stack this one too because Jefferson's a very good player at the quarterback position. He takes care of the ball. Only 3 interceptions so far this year.
27 total touchdowns.
Total touchdowns. He gets it done with his arm and with his legs. And then you have they run 3 running backs in the backfield with Trey Sanders, Raheem Sanders, and Dominique Johnson, who are all very good runners in their own right. And then they have just a complete mismatch in Traylon Burks on the outside. So it's going to be really good. It's going to be a good opportunity for this defense to really hone in on a good offense of late and really show that they've come around since last year.
Most definitely, and most importantly in this matchup, Pat, you look at not just Will Anderson affecting KJ Jefferson, but another game where Dallas Turner can stack a good performance. Byron Young can stack a good performance. Justin Boygby, who had a half a sack last week, can stack a good performance. LeBron Ray, of which people were so happy for him to finally get his first solo sack in 2 years, here's a chance for him to stack another good performance. So for this team, in trying to create that championship mentality, when you look at Arkansas this week, it all starts, what does it do in this game? Because the fan base here, where the Crimson Tide is concerned, there is still some doubt. There is still some, I don't know if this Alabama team can really do that. So this is a big one here for Alabama in trying to really show that they're for real about this push.
Yeah, and up until this point, this Alabama team really hasn't given the fans any reason to believe that it's a consistent team enough to, like last year's, in order to play at a championship level. But here's the thing, for all this, for everyone saying and just poo-pooing the Alabama defense, I'm going to say something very controversial. They've actually been pretty good against the run so far this year.
We're giving love to Pete Golden.
They are second in the SEC in rush defense, only 3 yards behind Georgia on the year. And this is going to be a big opportunity for this team to show their improvement on that side of the ball against this run-heavy team like Arkansas.
They're also in the top 10 in sacks with 34, averaging 3.4 a game. I know a lot of that's Will Anderson, but they're in the top 10 for sacks. So you do have to give them credit in some of those facets there on defense.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big test for their defensive front because Arkansas is bringing back its entire offensive line from 2020. So their guys up front really need to win their individual matchups going into this game.
As we look at now, Pat, this senior group here, Coach Saban talked about it on Thursday. Not a ginormous senior class. Having seniors is kind of an anomaly now because some of the guys used to going to the NFL after 3 seasons or pursuing the transfer portal, things of that nature. But this is still a solid group when you look at guys like Fedarian Mathis, guys like Brian Robinson, Daniel Wright, Josh Jobe, Jalen Armour-Davis. You can technically call him a senior, though he's a redshirt junior. But a lot of these guys that were either freshmen in 2017 or 2018, this is a group that has seen 1 to 2 national championships in their time here with the program. If there was a senior that you're looking forward to seeing having a monster game here against Arkansas, who would that senior be?
It'd be Fedarian Mathis for me. He's a guy who's really stuck it out in the program and accomplished a lot in his tenure here. And he's had an excellent season so far, and it's going to be another big test. Like I said,
he's enhanced his draft stock. He really
absolutely.
Has.
He's turned himself into a really, really good player at the college level, and it's just going to be another big test for him to show out in his final time in Bryant Bryant-Denny Stadium.
You're going Phil Mathis. I'm going to say Brian Robinson at the running back position. B-Rob has waited 5 years for this. Tuscaloosa kid, played ball at Hillcrest High School off Alabama Highway 69 South. He's waited his entire life for this. Going back to Tuesday's player interviews, he said, my body feels good. I'm healthy. I can carry the load. I can carry the toll. I can do this. He's wanting to take as much pressure off of a Christian Leary, a DeMaury Kennedy, a Slade Bolden as he possibly can by saying, I can carry the rock. Put it on me. So it comes down to, does Coach Saban, does Doug Marrone, does the running back coach Robert Gillespie, do these guys put this on B-Rob, knowing that he doesn't have all the wear and tear on him?
I mean, I think it absolutely is. I mean, what a story it's been for Brian Robinson's career. For the first 3 or 4 years of his career at Alabama, just buried on the depth chart, can't get on the field, and now at this point in the year, it's all on him to finish out the year. He's got to get all the big carries. Maybe I don't know if he's going to be getting Derrick Henry type 50 carries against Auburn. I don't expect that.
I don't expect that. I mean, we don't expect that, Pat. But at least for his credit, at least for B-Rob's credit, we're talking about he's near 1,000 yards rushing, over 800. He leads the SEC for rushing touchdowns with 14. So he's had an extremely productive year. I'm just proud of. He's got himself in a situation where he's looking at his head coach, Nick Saban, and going, Coach, put it on me. I'm ready for it. Put it on me.
Absolutely. I mean, and like I said, it's just a great story, and now it's all on him, and he's really going to have to show out in these last 2 weeks this season.
Looking forward to seeing all of these seniors take the field, getting that moment to get the football from Coach Saban, take the picture with the head coach, with the entire families around these young men. But in this matchup here, Pat, the line on this game, before we get into that, we all know Alabama wins this game. They punch the ticket to win the SEC West to take on Georgia. It'll be the 9th SEC West crown for Alabama since 2008 in the Saban era. But the line on this game, 20 and a half. How you see this shaking here, P-Money?
I think this is going to be a really hard game for Alabama on both sides of the ball. So I don't think they're going to cover it. I know the Tennessee game, Alabama won 45-24, but I think it'll be the same vein as that, where they really got to work for it. So, but I don't think they'll win by 20 plus. It might be 17 or 14.
I'm going to actually say 17. I got this 41-24. Bam! I say 17 dead on head there because KJ Jefferson's going to provide a lot of excitement. You're going to have to tackle him. You're going to have to get this man on the ground. He's going to want to run the football, throw it to Traylon Burks. They're going to rotate 3 to 4 backs. As much as people give credit to the Lane Kiffins of the world, the Steve Sarkisians of the world, and they deserve all the credit that's given to them, Kendall Browse is one of the best offensive minds in college football, and he's going to have something to say in this matchup here against Alabama. But folks, Crimson Tide taking on Arkansas, final home game of the season, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff, Bryant-Denny Stadium. CBS will have the call on the matchup. For all of us here at Touchdown Alabama Magazine, I'm yours truly, Stephen M. Smith.
And I'm Patrick Dowd.
And you know what time it is, folks. We got you next week for the Iron Bowl.